Hello, starting today with Saturn through houses, and I'm going to just do this generic video. The first one will be all about what is Saturn really all about. So Saturn is one of the most important planets in Vedic astrology, in the sense that it deals at our karma. So wherever Saturn is, it's basically where we're paying our karma to the world in our natal chart. Obviously, do always bear in mind that despite the fact that you're born with a certain placements, but actually every dashas are planetary periods which are very unique to Vedic astrology. Your chart changes, even though the underlying thing is your D1 or your natal chart, but really is on top of it during those years that that particular planet is ruling your life. You're doing more, you can read your chart from there, so this could change according to that. But this, obviously we know that the natal chart is literally the flavor of what we are. But I'm sure we all see that we definitely change every year when we are younger, and every decade or so we change dramatically as well as we work through our karmas. And some karmas, we work through and basically it's done, so it doesn't mean that we're going to be repeating those issues again and again. This is one of the most important things as well to know, is that for Saturn is very strong in the 7th house, because it's planet of community, other people, marriage, commitment. Therefore, if you have a difficult issues, difficult Saturn in your chart, it's really good to work on. I mean, if you have got a strong Venus, then that's fine. And also, if you've got strong Jupiter, that's very good too. But Venus and Saturn, really, they rule all the most important houses in the chart, which is 2nd house and 7th house of Venus, and 10th and 11th house of the natural zodiac are ruled by Saturn. So Saturn for us is the planet, we always look at it from Aries Ascendant. It rules 10th house of career, karma and status, and 11th house, which is house of gains, and house of elder sibling. So it's a wealth and work. For Venus is 2nd house of family, savings, values, self-love, and 7th house of relationships and working with the others. So when they get together, this is how relationships are built, basically, because if you've got a good Venus and good Saturn, you really work at it. And so if you're finding that in your chart, your Saturn is very strong and it holds you back, or it's very weak, when it's very weak, like a debilitated Saturn, it's really, particularly in the 1st or 7th house, it can be quite difficult, because the person only ever sees the lack. They can give up on things before even start it. Therefore, it's quite good to work on Saturn. Saturn is literally hard work, putting your back into it and getting results. And the moment you do it with Saturn never ever denies you anything, but it wants you to deliver, and it wants you to be consistent and persistent. So let's go through some of the things to do with Saturn. Saturn is monotony. It's routine. Responsibility is our duty, commitment, fear, worry, seriousness, actually having lack, feeling the lack for anything. Maturity, reliability is humanitarian. It's unhappiness, discipline. It likes fairness, really, in everything. Wherever it sits in our chart, that part of our life, we're always very hard on ourselves. And it's rules it's dry and it's stressful. It rules kind of laws of the land. Sometimes even the unspoken laws will be to do with Saturn. It's like planet of humbleness and integrity, really. It's rules and regulations. It's respected, respect and respecting others, basically. It's always seeing what is not done. So you could have a list, and person who's got a good Venus, they think, okay, I had 10 things on my list. I did 2. Excellent. I now deserve a cup of tea. And they go and treat themselves, and there's no guilt attached. Well, it's very different for Saturn. Saturn is always guilt-driven. So therefore, it's like, even if they did 2 jobs and they were massively busy and there were big jobs to do in a day, they is still hard on themselves that they didn't do the other 8. So their view of life is very much like glass half empty. But they are loyal, hardworking. As I said, they love a routine. They like everything to be just so. Steadfast. They that term, talk the talk, walk the walk. They probably even don't even talk, but they certainly walk the walk, because they're not really having Saturn on your first house. It kind of limits everything. It can, wherever it's sitting, it kind of contracts that. It also rules elderly people, sick or disabled people. It's longevity. It's also death, delays, isolation, community, and above everything else is service. So these are all the indications of Saturn. So what we do now, we'll go through and do it through the houses. Saturn is friendly with Venus, very good friends with Venus, and also with Mercury. And it also does pretty well with Ketu, but it's definitely not friendly with the Sun or the Moon, or even Mars, although Mars is neutral with Saturn. And Rahu as well. Rahu, Saturn are not good together either. So this is how you can see. So you can see that Saturn is going to do really well in own sign, rules Capricorn, and rules Motricona sign, which is like the head office sign. It's very strong. Is in the 11th house of the natural zodiac, which is house of kind of groups, networks, likes to be with other people and actually contributing to everything. And it's exalted in Libra and debilitated in Mars. Exalted in the sign of other people, marriage, committing, working with other people, and diplomacy. But sign of Aries, which is all about me, myself, and I, is not happy there, because obviously it's a sign of me being singular, and also sign of Mars, which is an enemy to it considers Mars as an enemy. And so we just want to kind of like, this is one of those things that when you have a weak Saturn in your chart, you really it's very hard to get a grip of life, and things for people will be seriously delayed, and people, like mothers and fathers, could start worrying about the child because they just feel as though they are not really grasping things in life and solidifying anything. And also it can make the child very worryful as well. So I find that when Saturn is in your first house, in your 7th house, it's your Atmakarka, or is sitting with your ascendant lord, the child, everything for the child will be delayed. They'll be more stressed than normal. They'll be very dutiful. They always worry. They have this fear. So as a mother, it's very important to just like have compassion for them, because these children are real humanitarian. If they are really looked after and nurtured, so they can actually there's that trust thing going on, then you do well and they do well too. And so don't literally, be aware that they are not sometimes, it could be that, I'm not saying this every person, it depends on the chart, but don't they feel the pain of anything, because obviously they feel as though if they didn't do very well in a test, or they didn't do a job to the way their parents wanted to, they carry this terrible guilt, and they feel as though they let you and the family down, so they already suffer with a lot of guilt anyway. So it's really good when we are kind of, even with, if you have a partner who has or children, siblings, friends and everything else, we just got to realize that's where they're coming from. It's really, really important. So anyway, let's talk about the Saturn through signs, through houses. Thank you. Saturn has special aspects. It's obviously where it's sitting. It always, like all other planet aspects, 7 houses away. It also has special aspects, which is 3rd house and 10 houses away. The house that it's actually 3 houses away, but you always count so if it was in the 1st house, so you count 1st, 2nd, 3rd. So 3rd house will be where you'll be putting the effort in. So 3rd house is away from where it's sitting, and then 10 houses away from it, which is where you're paying karma to the world for from Saturn's viewpoint. So it's not necessarily for some people who've got Saturn in the 5th house, is 10 houses from that. It's not going to be necessarily your work one, but nonetheless though, it's something that you're paying karma on the world too. Okay, let's make a start on this. Saturn in the 6th house. So I'm just going to go through the indications of the 6th house, and then we do the effects and the ascendant. So obviously anywhere that Saturn sits is going to be slow moving, and there's going to be delays. So what better than in a house that is a Dushtana house, but it's also an Upachaya house, and it's a malefic house, and now we have a malefic sitting there. So in that case, there's confluence between the planet and the sign. The results of this obviously is going to be very different depending on the actual sign that Saturn is sitting in. Saturn in Capricorn will be very different to Saturn in Aries, where it's debilitated, or Saturn in Leo, for example. Excuse me, my voice has gone all funny. Anyway, there you are, Saturn. From here, from the 6th house, Saturn is going to, the 3rd aspect is going to be on the 3rd house. 3rd aspect of it is going to be on the 8th house. 7th aspect is going to be on the 12th house, and then it's also going to aspect by 10th aspect the 3rd house. So as you can see, it's going to be kind of very strange setup here. So it's going to delay all of those things. However, what happens with Saturn and an Upachaya house is that it is going to have difficulties for sure. However, it will get better very, very slowly over time. And I just want to point out that Sage Gemini always, Sun is intelligence, is Leo, intelligence. However, surviving the world is also intelligence, but that's also Virgo, 6th house. So when you have a very good 6th house, and when you do your dues and do your karmas on the world, naturally over time, with you get that power from Saturn to really be triumphant. This might take a while. It might happen in your 40s. It certainly will not happen before 36. However, with perseverance, and this is literally where perseverance comes. Let's start. So 6th house, obviously a house that gets better over time. This is a house of divorce, discord, disease, disharmony, debt, it's all the D's, obstacles, enemies, mother's siblings, so your cousins, aunts, things like that too. Happiness of siblings, because obviously 4 houses from 3rd house. Service, health, healing, that kind of thing. Some things I've put down here as well. It says your daily routines is how you organise yourself and manage your life, generally speaking, how organised you are. This is very much like your management skills for your own life. It's your pets and service jobs, service generally to the community, and obviously it's a job house work, and so it's to do with service, medics, that kind of thing. So I always think like sixth house is obviously jobs that you really work hard at them. So it's the police, the fire service, doctors, nurses, social service, lawyers. It could be divorce lawyers, that kind of litigation, legal jobs. Generally speaking, it's did I say social services? Social services, working in emergencies. Community jobs, zookeepers, animal rescue jobs, sanitation job, infrastructure jobs, that kind of thing. And it's like really now Saturn is dealing with the reality of that sixth house, and Saturn there is just making it absolutely real. So you know that your life will be about like providing community situations where you're working, whatever you do, you know, the more you actually do dedicate yourself to others, like these will be people that work really hard, but at the weekends they might go out and maybe spend an afternoon looking after rescued animals, or maybe they help clean rivers. You know, they just like everything they do, there is like that kind of the thinking process is to do with service. This is obviously a house of disease, and by third aspect, there's going to be aspect in eighth house. And you know that basically third aspect of Saturn is like putting effort into it. So by putting effort into like being of service, working hard, and working on your own health, on your own nutrition. I'm getting this sticking again. I've had some internet issues. Seems okay. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, so there you are, Saturn doing his Saturn thing. So basically you have this situation where you can, if you really look after yourself and you manage yourself well, so really well placed Saturn is going to be really be in control. So they are not going to allow, once they get a disease, if they're, you know, they can research it because it's putting effort into the eighth house and getting the information necessary in order to look after themselves, their health, or they're helping, other people too. Their in-laws are going to be quite conservative, you can see. And generally speaking, the marriage is going to be quite conservative. It's going to be more to do with helping the community and being of service. So it does kind of dry up the house of sexual interaction in the married life. But it also means that they are quite safety, kind of health and safety aware in a sense, because they're not going to be the sort of people who are going to be driving really fast. Everything that they do, you know, there is that mentality of Saturn where there's like safety, security is a theme of the life, unless obviously Saturn is weak. So they're not likely to, you know, they almost can write the manual on being leading a life that is more coming from making sure all the hatchets are down, you know, all the so they kind of what do I want to say? What's the actual word? They risk assess in order not to have those issues. But generally speaking, the conversation with partner, with the with the in-laws and everything, it's more to do with service. These are like really community people, community minded, want to be they're very charitable. And from there, obviously, it's aspect in the 12th house. So you know that their jobs will be behind the scenes. They're going to put a lot of effort into their work, but they're not necessarily going to get like the recognition, because it's 12th house thing. It's behind the scenes. It's in the hospital, it's in the prison, it's in social services, you know, like giving advice or whatever, you know, to betterment of people's lifestyles, healing, and well-being, basically. So that they could be working behind the scenes in a lab, in like in a charitable organization or something like that. But yeah, that's but they could also, their work could also take them away from their homeland to or they could at times do work that is like, say for example, there's like there's been like floods or something, so they would just take the rescue things there and help the people in that environment. So, you know, there is some beauty in this that's like really close to, you know, the source. And also it's also from this aspect in the third house. So, you know, these are careful speakers. They're not going to be initiating conversations, really. They are quite shy. You know, Saturn gives you shyness and gives you nervousness about things. So they're not going to be like starting the conversation. You need to like get the information out of them. You need to be the friendly one and crack up, you know. But if it is to do with their job, definitely they're going to be there and of dignity and things like that. So they are. It's like the higher thinking Saturn. In a marriage, though, you have to really work at it in order to be able to have that like warmth in the family and warmth with the in-laws and with your partner, really. This because Saturn dries things up there for sure. Going to look at the ascendants now. For Aries ascendant, having Saturn in the 6th house, Saturn is going to go into Virgo. This is already house of like service anyway, so it's going to be, this person is going to be highly service oriented. It's in a friendly sign too. So this is 10th and 11th Lord going into the 6th house. So this is all about Upachaya houses, isn't it? So it's like 6th house is Upachaya, 10th, 11th, and also it's going to be aspect in the 3rd house, another Upachaya house, original Upachaya houses. But it is for everyone. And but obviously 12th house is aspect that's not an Upachaya house. So yeah, this is going to be Saturn. That's going to be literally. There's going to be obviously some secretive things because it's the original 8th house now. So there's going to be quite a lot of connotations about their in-laws are going to be a little bit secretive about their taxes, secretive about their, you know, like inherit wills and things like that, So yeah, so they're going to be like very service oriented. The in-laws are going to be quite secretive. So this aspect there is going to be good because it's a malefic is aspect in that. And because it's a 10th house ruler, there's some level of research is in the job too. And it's also a gain. So through work and hard work, literally putting so much effort into it, and they could be triumphant and gain through this Saturn. Saturn is obviously aspect in the 12th house, natural 12th house of the zodiac. So their job definitely, and their job could become a career. So they could be quite successful. It can take them to faraway lands, and they could have gains through it. So. But they also like spending money, so the whole thing can also create certain amount of losses too. So that's something to and they something about the because also it's aspect in the 3rd house. You know, they do well to really work on self-expression and communication and everything, because actually being communicative can stress Saturn out. Because it's not the natural thing with Saturn. So they could actually really create like frustration with other people. So if, you know, this gets better with time, but if you are aware of it, you can actually, you know, just communicating with your partner in terms of things that are a little bit more to do with your bedroom thing, communicating nicely with your in-laws and friends and at work. This is going to be really elevate this position. But generally speaking, it's not too bad, because also what it does, it kind of it makes you think about Saturn is not impulsive buyer. So because this aspect in the 12th house is less likely to go out and spend something that's like of no use, you know, that helps that in that situation. For Taurus ascendant, this is now going to be their 10th and ninth house ruler in the 6th house. So this is going to spoil the Raja Yoga there. But you know that it gets better with time. So this is like Yoga Karaka planet. It's saying that you are here really. Your job should be about servicing, service of other people, because Saturn is going to be exalted in the 6th house for them. And so it's encouraging the natives to be of service and really kind of create a nice harmony within your work environment. Be the bigger person. And they don't really like working behind the scene, because that they want to be more out, because excuse me, because Saturn is exalted now in Libra in the 6th house. The 12th house, being behind the scenes medic or behind the scenes person, they're not going to really enjoy it so much. So they want to be like of service, and they want to be really kind. These are kind, diplomatic, harmony-seeking people. You know, they at work they really enjoy it, because it's house of Venus as well. So it's got a nice feeling to do with the work. And as much as they work behind the scene, they start kind of. So their patients or their clients, whatever, you know, they like to be interacting with them. They get a lot of joy from giving to people. It's going to be obviously aspecting 3 houses from there, the 8th house, which is going to be Sagittarius. So you know that they have they have to put effort into obviously into the in-laws and things like that. And the in-laws can be quite religious, of the same belief system. But you know, it could also Saturn is like a malefic, so you can kind of. Sometimes, you know, they probably don't want to be necessarily going to the temple with the in-laws and things like that too. But generally speaking, you know, it says that it's the in-laws are probably, you know, of quite educated people, you know, very, very religious. And obviously, as I said, this aspect in the 12th house, which is going to be the debilitation sign. So for these people actually going abroad and doing service job is probably not going to be that easy. However, you know, there'll be some difficulties, some losses, expenses, and they're going to feel quite isolated working there. But you know, it is, at the end of the day, it is a Yoga Karaka planet, and it rules the 10th house, so it is going to get better with time. And also aspecting the 3rd house is aspecting from there is aspecting Cancer. So you know, they feel really nervous, anxious. You know, so that when they send a message or a text or say something, they worry about what they said. They worry about how the other person's going to interpret what they said. Oh, I do apologise. So yeah, this is quite an interesting one. Anyway, so that's. Let's go to Gemini now. So for Gemini, Saturn rules 8th and 9th house. So now that is aspected, it's in the 6th house. It's in a difficult sign. So it's in Scorpio, which is the natural 6th house of the zodiac. So there are some things behind. So these people could be the tax. They work behind the scenes for taxation, litigations, that kind of thing. And it's also a house of healing. Natural Scorpio is house of healing and mediation, that kind of thing. So if they are divorce lawyer and everything, particularly if it's in Anuradha, they make fantastic mediators, bringing people together, try to sort of make a friendly outcome out of it. And from there, it's going to be the 8th house is Capricorn. So you know that the nature of their the more effort they put into their job and everything else, the higher their status goes. Suddenly they get this higher status. They could also be surgeons too, because now this is a Saturn that is sitting in Mars's eighth house, natural 8th house of the zodiac. So that's the house of surgery, and also aspect in the 8th house of surgery. And this is the natural 10th house of the zodiac. So they could be a very, very well known and successful surgeon. And also from there is aspects the 9th house as well. And you know, this is a hard working. It's also something that maybe their dad did too. so it is like this person is educated, quite traditional person, and wants to do the best that they can. They're really community minded too. From there, obviously, is aspect in the third house, but the 10th aspect. So that's Leo. So you know that they're gonna have this direct way of communicating, but it'd be quite with integrity and dignity, really. So they say very little, but when they say something, it has meaning. Also, aspect in the 12th house, which is going to be the Taurus. So this is if again another friendly sign, that kind of thing. So it's like going to be the so you know that the father could have been like maybe not available for them when they were growing up, that kind of stuff. But generally speaking, you can see that the in-laws are of high status, and they're quite meticulous about the work they do. They do the research. If they're doing any form of surgery or anything like that, they are going to do the right thing by the people, and high status person. For Cancer Ascendant, Saturn being in the 6th house will be Saturn in Sagittarius, which is a neutral sign to Saturn. Saturn for them rules 7th and 8th house. From here, Saturn is going to, obviously this person is going to be very educated, quite a sort of learned person when it comes to litigation stuff. They'll probably make quite good advisors as well, because the 9th house, natural 9th house of the zodiac, cultured, educated, religious, and they could also be of service to people, like in terms of things to do with learning, teachers. They could be teaching people in prisons too, and people who are like in kind of like ashrams, or people who are in seclusion, things like that. They could help those sort of people too. And so these people also, from there, Saturn is going to be aspect in the 8th house, which is Saturn's own sign, because obviously Saturn rules 7th and 8th house for them. So it really protects the 8th house. That you can see that they've got a fantastic. Their in-laws are going to be really respected in the society, and they got it also, by aspect of the 8th house, it's going to really protect that house. So it's going to be amazing. So if they got any sort of secret stashes of money, because it's a fixed house, they can look after it pretty well. And it does kind of, I would probably say this person will go on to have more than one marriage. Just purely because it's 7th house ruler in the 6th house, and it rules the 8th house too. But that's how it gets better. You learn and you move on, and these are the things we wanted to experience in this lifetime. So I just think it's always good to go with the flow. If you're meant to be going, just accept, and you receive better partner next time. Or it could just be that you really work at it, you put a lot of effort into it, and you make it a success. Obviously, from there is going to be aspect in Virgo too. So you can see that these people are very highly intelligent, really good. These people will probably make very, very good lawyers, very good at service. And if they're police officers or anything like that, the information and everything, they're really good at getting all the information, getting the right job done for the people that they're helping. For Leo Ascendant, this will be Saturn in own sign in Capricorn. Wow, they're very, very successful. Saturn rules for them 6th and 7th house. So, and 7th house, another house that is going to be uplifted because of the fact that Saturn, it rules it, and it's in a strong position. These people will have a really good governmental job, very successful, because that is the nature of this sign, Capricorn. And so for them, these people will be working and putting a lot of effort into their work, and they definitely, they will have really nice in-laws. They're quite spiritual people. But also 8th house is natural 12th house of the zodiac. So there could be some losses and things because of the illnesses, chronic illness and things like that. And then also obviously it's aspect in the 12th house, which is Cancer. So this will be a little bit difficult. So it could be that they actually, obviously because of their job, they go abroad, or they deal with foreign people or foreign companies, generally speaking. And then we have Saturn's 10th aspect is going to be on the 3rd house, which is Saturn's exaltation sign. So the more they actually effectively talk to people, communicate, they're just going to find that everything unfolds for them. They create really nice situations, meeting really lovely people who will help them in their jobs, stuff like that. So in that sense, it's going to be really nice for these people, help their career elevate too. For Virgo Ascendant, when you have Saturn in the 6th house, Saturn will be in own signs. 5th and 6th house ruler Saturn in the 6th house, Aquarius. So this will be a person who could be probably an educator because of the 5th house, or an advisor, counselor, something like that. Somebody who's going to help people if, if their children are suffering from poor health or issues, things like that, or even issues around having a child. So this person is going to be a really good advisor for that reason, and Saturn is very strong there. From there, obviously, is the aspect in the 12th house, which is Leo. So they could definitely, work abroad, work behind the scenes. It's also aspect in the 3rd house for them, which is going to be Scorpio. So it just means that there could be like some issues with like siblings. There could be secret about the siblings, and it could be that they just like literally they're just not very good at communicating with people, because it's unfriendly sign is Scorpio. Scorpio is all about like secret kind of conversations, that kind of thing. From there, obviously, it's also aspect in Saturn, will be aspect in 8th house, which for them is Aries, which is Saturn is debilitated. So these people, that they really got to work at the intimacy in the relationship. They probably will find those things a bit difficult. Talking about it will be quite awkward for them as well, and they could be that it's just like. They probably are not very good at, because Saturn is not going to be so strong. So you need to look after your health for sure, and look after the relationship and the conversations that you have with your in-laws. But generally speaking, there could be the people that they don't put their taxes in time, and they could get themselves into issues, more kind of problems with expenses, having to pay extra money, that kind of thing. But yeah, so there could also be like inheritance issues there too. But the key to this is self-expression. So the more you work on Mercury, learning to tell people how you express yourself, how you communicate, and just nip the issue in the bud rather than allowing it to become a problem. This will be key too. So if there is a disease, deal with it. By good diet, good nutrition, good exercise, etc., etc. So don't let it become like chronic. And then we have for Libra Ascendant. Libra Ascendant, when Saturn is in your 6th house, Saturn will be in Pisces. So Saturn from there is neutral house to Saturn. Saturn will be ruling for your Yoga Karaka planet, 4th and 5th house in the 6th. So you could show that either the children or the mom or the education, they could have created some debts, some obstacles, some issues, and create some debt, things like that. And but Saturn doesn't do too badly in this house, so it could be that through sheer kind of research and putting effort into it, you can actually work through those things. Now Saturn is going to be like obviously 5th house ruler as well. So this person could be a fantastic teacher, really kind of emotionally connect to, very creative teacher for the young people, one that they're going to really adore, and their work is going to be quite, because it's also from there going to be aspect in 12th house, which is sign of is original sign of service. So they're going to really enjoy it and really put like a lot. They're quite practical in their teachings too. Also aspecting obviously the 3rd house, which is going to be Sagittarius, natural 9th house of the zodiac. So learning, travel, all of that can really have a great impact on their 3rd house, and their communication skills gets better. And obviously from there is going to be aspect in the 8th house. So you know that the it's Venus's house. So it's quite a nice one in the sense that it's going to be the in-laws. You can see the nature of the in-laws is going to be quite nice. And if you really kind of work at it and everything, and also this shows the intimacy in the relationship. So if you work at it, it really does pay in the long run. Then for Scorpio Ascendant, Saturn in the 6th house will be Saturn debilitated in the 6th house. So this is going to be interesting because for Scorpio, Saturn rules 3rd and 4th house. So it goes that there is issues and discord with siblings, maybe friends, communication issues, issues with mum, home, car, that kind of thing too. So they really need to work at, I think what will really help is working on Mercury, how you talk to people, how you express yourself, etc., etc. That could be really, really nice. So yeah, that will be absolutely wonderful if you worked at that really. And you really got to put effort into it. But the key to this really is like looking after your own health, being consistent, because Saturn debilitated can make person a little bit like, I do this in a minute, I do this tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes. So they can really avoid doing things, and they could be a little bit shy of commitment, shy of routine, shy of hard work. So that there's got to be that level of consistency, to get the results. So I would just say, if you want to really work on this, really do it. Be consistent, have a plan, and work towards it. And things will get better with time. This is after Upachaya house. And so, again, there's no reason why the person can't, it's still 6th house. So still a very service-oriented Saturn is more likely to be working in like emergencies, like police or security, that kind of thing, or even medics, because Ashwini is the first part, and Bharani as well could be like to do with working in gynecology, that kind of thing. And obviously from there is going to be aspect in 8th house will be the natural 3rd house of the zodiac. So, information, researching the information, getting the information will be quite easy for you, putting it into that. And so Saturn is obviously, this is going to be it's going to be a little bit, finding the information and all of that, and just trying to have a very friendly relationship with your in-laws, and really talking if there's issues with intimacy with your partner. That will really help too. And obviously from there to, let's see, it's going to be aspect in by 3rd aspect is 10th aspect, sorry, it's going to be aspect in the 3rd house, which is Capricorn. So that's going to get better with time. There could be a little bit like kind of slow in answering messages and things like that, but they're going to be good. So that the 3rd house stuff, the communications and friendships and all of those, they do work at it, and they do invest in it, and it's going to be like help them rise and elevate in your work eventually. Now for Sagittarius Ascendant, Saturn in the 6th house will be Saturn in Taurus, and Saturn for you rules 2nd and 3rd house. When in the 6th house, that there's going to be like money debts, things like that. It's going to be like a bit of sort of squabbling and fights between the family or with the siblings, with very close friends, that kind of thing. And the communication, if it's bad, it can create debts for you, can create losses for you. So you've got to really be aware of that. However, these people are going to be obviously very service oriented, and Saturn for them rules Saturn from there is aspect in the 12th house there, so you know that they could be working in a lab on secret projects as well, because it's going to be like 8th house stuff in surgeries, that kind of, there could be surgeons too, because as far as it's aspect in the third house too. But generally speaking, it's actually protecting the 3rd house from there, but it's 10th aspect. So you know that in their job they're going to be working with their hands. It definitely could be a surgeon. And 8th house, the 3rd aspect will be on the 8th house, which is Cancer. So you know that the in-laws could be quite wonderful, home-loving, homeland-loving, patriots, people who are very kind, generous, nurturing. So and that's the environment that they create. So the more you go with it and everything and communicate well with them, it's going to be really good. So the nature of the in-laws is quite nice. And when you do the talking with your partner and have like really good communications with them and stuff like that, you can sort through any issues that there could be in the marriage as well. Now for Capricorn Ascendant, this is going to be Saturn rules 1st and 2nd house, so it's the money making planet too. When it goes in the 6th house, will be in friendly sign, which is Gemini. So the job could be to do with communication, because natural 3rd house of the zodiac, and Saturn, that they're going to create their savings and all of that could be a little bit difficult to begin with, and there could be some debts and some obstacles, some litigations, that kind of thing. But so you could also be helping people who have debt issue, and give them the information, so research the information, help them. So you could be somebody who solves debt problems, solves divorce problems when it comes to finances. And from there is obviously going to be aspect in the 8th house. So the nature of the in-laws is going to be, they're quite noble, very respected people in the society. And but it could also be there's a lot of ego when it comes to intimacy with a partner. So it's just like, because the fixed sign is Leo and Saturn is aspecting it. So sometimes it could be that the in-laws can make you feel as though, you are they're at a slightly better status than you are, or that kind of thing. It's all in the mind though. Don't worry about it. You can overcome that. And the part, the intimacy thing is so important that you work at that together. That's so important, because it's a fixed sign. It's Leo. Leo has got a lot of ego attached to it. So, yeah, don't let ego create a sort of like disharmony at home with your partner, or disharmony with people that you work with, or disharmony with your, did I say in-laws, your partner. So it's good to just leave that ego behind. Now, obviously, this is now going to be also aspect in 3rd house. So 3rd house will be Pisces. This is pretty nice actually, because they think about they don't want to be upsetting anyone with their communication. So although it's like a natural 12th sign of the zodiac, but it could just be that they just like put a little bit more effort into it. In this case, actually, because the 12th house natural zodiac is Pisces and this is their 3rd house, they could speak foreign languages too. And also they could be working abroad, and because of that, learning languages and maybe help people who are seeking immigration, that kind of thing, with their job too. Then we have for For Aquarius Ascendant, 6th house Saturn is going to be Saturn in Cancer. So it's going to be obviously a difficult position because Saturn in Cancer is like a very dry, difficult planet. You know, it's always looking at the lack. Sitting in a sign that is all to do with nurture, nourishment, you know, sign of moon, you know, so this is like sign that makes us all sort of feel, we want to be feeling safe. Saturn is in there, so there's a little bit of fear about like the job, the money, worrying about this, constantly, you know, they could be worrying quite a bit. From there though, it's aspecting this 12th house, so it's really protecting the 12th house Capricorn. And so you know that these people can work abroad and really become successful. And also Saturn naturally on its own sitting in Cancer, despite the fact that it's difficult, it gives person status to, you know, because obviously it's aspecting Capricorn. But these people could be working with mothers who've just had, you know, so it could be like pediatric wards they working with, midwifery. They could be health visitors for when the child is born. Yeah, that kind of thing. And but so it is quite a successful placement, but the person will worry naturally, you know, will worry about their job, their sort of serve other people. Is my patient getting better? But they really make very wonderful nurses, medics, doctors. They're so caring. From there, obviously, aspecting the by third aspect will be aspecting the natural 6th house of the zodiac. So this is going to be aspecting Virgo. So you know they are just very, very committed to the job that they do. They are naturally thinking about helping other people. Their in-laws could have health issues, but their in-laws could also be in service jobs. They could be teachers, intellectual people. These people, you know, they could be very highly practical, you know, people, healers, that kind of thing. And this is going to be like how you overcome the issues. Will be like, because obviously Saturn rules for you 1st and 12th house. So any form of hospitalization, that kind of thing, get the information, research it, work on it, do your nutrition, do your exercise, that will help. From there, Saturn is going to be also aspecting 3rd house, which is, excuse me, excuse me, it's going to be areas where it's debilitated. So being hasty with communication is going to get you into trouble. So think about what you know, always think about the messages that you send. But otherwise, quite successful position, I would say. Excuse me. Right, for Pisces Ascendant, Saturn in the 6th house will be Saturn in Leo. Not a very easy position. Because it's an enemy number 1 sign, and there's a rigidness there too, and this is a natural sign of politics and government and politicians, that kind of thing. So that could be the job. So they could be a civil servant, there could be an education, that kind of thing. And there's a rigidness in the job, you know, that's just like you have to conform everything, you've got to be very compliant with this. So there's a system, working in the system. So there could definitely be education, teaching young children or teenagers. And but it's also creative. Leo's creative sign too, so it could be they teach maths and they teach also musical instruments too. But you know, this is the position. Whenever you have Saturn and Sun together, you've got to look after your body, because there's like this rigidness, and people can really suffer from stiffness, bad back, lower back problems, that kind of thing. So look after yourself, you know. I would, and also this is a sign of healing anyway. So you know, book yourself a massage. Realize when you need rest. So overworking will not be great. From there, obviously, aspect in 12th sign. Which is own sign, Aquarius protecting that. So that actually they're working behind the scenes at, you know, or abroad could be a theme for these people, because they could be quite successful in their job, actually doing very nice. They could be medics, but I would see this more like a job that is governmental, high status, teachers, that kind of thing. And also, obviously, from there is going to be aspecting the eighth house. The eighth house for them is their exaltation sign. So they know by dealing with the in-laws, being like, their in-laws could be very nice people, actually, because they make them, elevate them, make them feel good. They will put effort into that. So actually, I think, you know, where it can drive the eighth house for people has a sex and, you know, intimacy with your partner, it could probably not be that bad with this one. And from there also is aspecting the third house, which is Taurus. So this is, again, you know, it's a friendly sign, but again, Venus, because it's Venus sign, it does kind of help the communication star, and that all of that will help in their job and in their success too. So all in all, it's not that bad, but they just got to look after their own physical well-being, to look after their digestive system. You guys, make sure you really, if you have problems with food or anything like that, any certain foods, you know, really look after your nutrition, because this is like a malefic now sitting in a sign that's not kind of liking, if you like. That's it from me. Look after yourself, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.